15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, engines full power, and liftoff. Go Hera, go Falcon, go SpaceX.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Slick 40. After clearing the tower, we begin to tilt or gimbal the engines. That initiates a roll maneuver you might see on the Stage 1 camera view, although it's kind of cloudy. But this enables the vehicle's antennas to stay in the best position for communicating with the ground. We are into throttle down now in preparation for max dynamic aero.
Falcon is supersonic.
Faster than a speeding bullet, we're supersonic on Falcon 9. Waiting for the call out from GNC of Max Q.
Max Q.
Right on time, we're through the period of maximum pressure on the vehicle. The Merlin engines are back at power, and we're out of the throttle bucket. Now from here on, even though the velocity is rapidly increasing, the atmospheric density is decreasing, and that's resulting on less loads on the Falcon 9. 90 seconds into flight, the rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid gravity pulling it back down to Earth and getting into orbit. We've heard the call out for MVAC chill. That's a bleed valve on the second stage engine. That's performing the final chill prior to second stage engine ignition. All's looking good with the first stage trajectory. We're coming up on T plus 2 minutes. Views from onboard the camera mounted on the inner stage of Booster 1061. Now we've got 3 events that'll be coming up in just under 30 seconds. Main engine cutoff, the 9 Merlin engines will be throttled down and shut down. Then we'll get stage separation, and then startup of the MVAC engine on its first of 2 burns on the second stage. We've begun throttling down the Merlin engines.
Main engine cutoff.
Call for MECO.
Stage separation.
Successful stage separation.
MVAC ignition.
MVAC ignition and we're up on power on stage 2. Coming up will be fairing deployment. And for the first stage, as we saw it in the background, farewell 1061, and we thank you. As we continue climbing out of Earth's atmosphere, we're waiting for the right time when we can open up and deploy the fairing. That should be coming up in about 10 seconds. There's a camera view as we switch. You can see Hera inside the 2 halves of the fairing.
Fairing separation.
And successful payload fairing separation. As we mentioned earlier, the fairing halves have supported multiple missions. One half has flown 12, now 13 missions, and the other had previously flown 18. And those fairing halves will come back down to Earth. They're guided by cold gas thrusters and then parachutes or parafoils.
Falcon is on a nominal trajectory.
They'll deploy, and they'll be recovered by our recovery vessel, Doug. Jesse, T plus 4 minutes, 23 seconds. Everything continues to look good on Falcon 9 with Hera.
Thanks, John. Yeah, everything's looking great. We got some awesome views here on your screen. What you're looking at is a view of the MVAC engine on the second stage with a beautiful view of Earth in the background.
Stage 1 STS has safed.
Now, we are currently in the first of 2 planned MVAC burns for this spacecraft. And we have separated for the first stage from the first stage. As we mentioned earlier, we will not be recovering the booster as we usually do. Now, typically we would land the booster either on a drone ship or back on land, but due to the performance, the additional performance required to deliver this payload to an interplanetary transfer orbit, we will be not recovering the booster today. Now, what you are seeing, again, is the MVAC engine. The MVAC engine is optimized for the vacuum of space and has about 220,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Again, this is the first of 2 burns. The 2 burns for the MVAC engine will take the second stage with the payload attached to the targeted drop-off orbit.
Falcon continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
And great call out there, following a nominal trajectory. You can also follow along with the speed of the vehicle as well as the altitude in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And the next event coming up in about a minute and a half from now is SECO 1. SECO 1 is second stage engine cutoff 1, which is where we will shut down that MVAC engine and allow the vehicle to coast with the payload in an Earth orbit, and then we'll reignite that MVAC engine for a second time to take the vehicle and payload to that interplanetary transfer orbit. Now we're just about a minute away from SECO 1. And you can see in the bottom right hand of your screen that the speed is continuing to pick up. The velocity is increasing on the vehicle as the MVAC engine continues to burn. But again, in about 40 seconds from now.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
In about 35 seconds from now, we will shut down that MVAC engine and again allow the vehicle to coast in an Earth orbit before we make its way to the interplanetary transfer orbit.
Stage 2, SDS says safe.
Continuing to get good callouts and some great views here. Again, this is from the second stage looking at the MVAC engine. The Hera payload is still attached.
MVAC shut down.
Nominal park orbit insertion.
And great news. We heard the callouts as well as saw that MVAC engine shut down, and we got a good confirmation of nominal orbital insertion. Now, the second stage is now embarking on the first portion of its coast phase. Coasting in this orbit will last about 45 minutes, and we will light that MVAC engine for a second time around T plus 52 minutes. So we're going to take a pause, and we'll see you back here at T plus 52 minutes for SES-2. Welcome back to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying the Hera spacecraft for the European Space Agency. Now, the second stage completed the first burn, placing Falcon 9 and the Hera spacecraft into the desired orbit about 3 minutes ago after launch. Now, we are approaching the second burn of the engine to carry Falcon 9 and Hera to the orbit needed to deploy the spacecraft. Now, coming up here in a few seconds should be...
MVAC ignition.
And right on time, SES-2. That call out was for second stage engine start. Now, this burn is planned to last about a minute and a half. And we got a great view of that MVAC engine burning very bright there. Now, during this time, we will be adding 4,500 kilometers per second to our velocity. And again, on the bottom right hand of your screen, you can see the speed increasing rapidly there, and you can also see the altitude of the vehicle and the payload. Now, this is the second burn for this mission. There are 2 planned burns for this payload to be dropped into an interplanetary orbit. So that first burn took us into an Earth orbit, and now this second burn that's currently happening right now is taking the vehicle and the payload to that interplanetary orbit where the Hera spacecraft will be deployed. Now we're just about 30 seconds away from the conclusion of SES-2, which will be SECO-2, that second stage engine cutoff 2. And then we will shut down that MVAC engine, allow the vehicle to coast for a little bit prior to the deployment of the payload. Now SECO-2 is coming up here in just a few seconds.
MVAC shut down.
We did have SECO-2, just waiting for confirmation of a good orbit. There you can see on your screen the MVAC engine has shut down. And the Hera payload there on your screen still attached to Falcon 9. If you're just now joining us, we did have 2 completed burns for that MVAC engine. Just about a minute ago, we had SECO-2 where that second stage engine did cut off, and you can see that there, no longer firing. And we do still have the Hera payload still attached to Falcon 9.
We were waiting to hear the guidance nav control officer call out a good burn. I think they may have been stepped on. We're looking at the data and we've heard the background chatter. We do have confirmation.
Nominal burn 2.
There we
Good
go.
orbit.
The chief engineer has confirmed we have a good second burn of the MVAC engine. So that means the Falcon 9 second stage, with the Hera payload still attached, has escaped Earth velocity. So we're no longer orbiting the Earth. We're now orbiting the sun. We've got one more major activity remaining in this launch mission, and that's the spacecraft deployment. You can see the Hera spacecraft right there, still attached to Falcon 9 second stage. That's expected to occur at T plus 1 hour and 16 minutes. So we've still got another 20 minutes, which means we're going to take a short break. And we'll see you back here at T plus 1 hour and 15 minutes for spacecraft deployment. Welcome back to our launch coverage of the Hera mission for the European Space Agency. If you're just joining us, we had an on-time launch at 10:52 a.m. Eastern. We were able to get the weather to cooperate. We had a successful ascent, stage separation. We've had the 2 burns of the second stage engine. We've got one more major milestone coming up to complete today's mission, which of course is the deployment of the Hera spacecraft from Falcon 9's second stage. That's going to happen just over 30 seconds from now. And you may have noticed when we shut down the engine at the end of the second burn, we were 204 kilometers, a little more than 120 miles above the Earth. If you look at the display on the bottom right of your screen, we've just crossed 7,400 kilometers as we continue to head out into deep space as we have exceeded the velocity to escape from Earth. But right now, let's listen to hear the call out and watch for separation of Hera from the second stage.
Hera separation confirmed.
Great view. We've got successful deployment of the Hera spacecraft.
And with successful payload deployed, that brings our webcast to a close.